All right, guys, come on in. This is Hindsight News. This is a brand new show. I just got everybody live. Um, we're doing live on 3 platforms now, which takes me a second to set up. So now we always do a little bit of an intro at the beginning. Gives me a little bit of time to get started. Um, Hold on, YouTube's having some trouble. I'm getting a please stand by on YouTube. Everything else looks good. YouTube will probably come around. I'm going to carry on without YouTube here in a second. I'll give it a second. While I'm doing that, please share. Get this out as far as you can. This is going to be an independent news show that I am starting moving forward. Something I used to do, and I'm going to bring it back. It's called Hindsight News, and you'll get the gist of it real quick. It's a truth news show. Come on in, like, share, and subscribe, all of that. YouTube, looks like people are coming in. It still says please stand by, but we'll see. It looks like people are coming in on YouTube. So I'm going to continue forward. We're up everywhere else, and my streaming software says we're good. So I'm going to get Facebook up. I shared it. If you shared it, thank you for doing that. I really appreciate your help. We got to let the lawyers talk real quick. Let's bring the lawyers in. Let the lawyers speak for a minute. Hey everybody, it's Sean. This is Hindsight News. This is a brand new show. I didn't have a lot of time to work on a lot of graphics. I got a little logo for you there, and we have pretty much the same background that I always use, but this is going to be a new little news show. We used to do a news show called Hindsight News, and I'm bringing it back. I thought it would be nice to bring this one back and do it again. So I have some stories that I have prepared to cover for you guys, and I'm going to get into those, and then we'll get into anything you want as we usually do. I always work off the comments. I always do better if there's comments and people participating. Plus, that helps us do better in the algorithm and get out to more viewers. So please comment, even if you're here watching later on. And hey, Dolores. Hey, Tony. Hey, Jeff. Hey, Dustin. Yeah, that's what we're going to do on this show is bring the truth. We're going to cover all the news stories that the news would cover if the news was actually news. That's what we're going to do on this show. And our top story tonight is everything is a lie. We're going to go ahead and lead with that on our first episode. Everything is a lie. This world is an illusion. We literally live in the matrix. That's not sensationalism, it's true. We literally live in an episode of the Matrix. It's just not all flashy and computer graphics and things like that, but the case remains the same. It's We live in a dystopian futuristic movie. We live in 1984 come to life. We live in a time where the establishment media, all mainstream media, is owned and controlled by six corporations. Six corporations. You can trace it all back to six people, basically. They could all sit around my bed and have room to giggle and tickle each other. It wouldn't even take up the whole bed. And that's what we're dealing with. That's who's in control of us. That's who has all this power over us. And they're selling us a lie every day on every channel. No matter where you get your news, you're getting propaganda, unless you're seeking it out from independent media sources, which most people who watch this would probably do. And thank you for doing that. But if you're doing that, know that you need to support those independent sources. And when you find a good show and when you find media that you like, support it so it can grow. And because this media that exists, this mainstream media that the regular person watches and believes as truth, is really distractions. Like this impeachment stuff that's going on right now. There's a lot in the media right now on the impeachment, even in the independent media. This impeachment is a smokescreen, it's a distraction. We just sent 2,000 more troops to Saudi Arabia while you're worrying about impeaching Trump, someone that we're voting out of office in 2020 anyway. Can we have an election and vote him out of office on ideas and policies and with, an agenda to move things forward instead of worrying about rushing President Pence into office? It's a distraction. They're trying to get you to look over here while they do things over here. It's magic, it's illusions. I was told that magic isn't real. Magic is absolutely real. It's all in how you define the word magic. But the elite believe in magic, and illusion is magic. It's part of magic. And, the media is covering garbage stuff. They're covering Shepard Smith quit. Shepard Smith is leaving Fox. And here is why you shouldn't care about old Shep leaving Fox. Shepard Smith was a factual, at least, conservative leaning, but factual based reporter for the most part. He would question and push people, even right leaning popular senators and congressmen and talking heads would push them on issues. He seemed an ally, right? Like an ally in the foxhole. This is why you shouldn't care. Everything on mainstream media is garbage, including Shepard Smith. And he's probably going to go work for CNN or somewhere else. He'll be fine. Don't worry about him. His family's going to do just fine. He made a very good living for Fox, but he is a talking head like any other. He's never going to be like a Ben Swan and break off and report on things that make it to where you can't get any sponsorship, you can't get put out in the mainstream media, and you don't get pushed in the algorithm. Things like this. This show will never be popular, you know, on a mainstream level, not putting it out the way I do. I would need to get my own website, which I don't know how to do. And maybe one day we'll do that, or I'll end up out in my garage doing this from a ham radio. I'm not really sure which direction it'll go, but I'm going to keep spreading the truth until I can't spread it anymore. And that's the responsibility of the woke, is to wake the others. If you're woke, that's great. And congratulations for being woke. Congratulations for realizing that the media is a weapon. It's weaponized propaganda. Has been since the CIA took it over in the 50s. That is nothing new. If that's new to you, I apologize, but you can Google it. I promise you that it's true. It's a weapon. Obama legalized propaganda to be used against the American people. That's a fact as well. It is legal for them to sell government propaganda to you as news stories, and they do that on a regular basis. Fact. All facts. That's something that you can trust on this news show and on any show I do. Is everything I tell you that's a fact, look it up and you're going to find out it is. And if I ever tell you that something is a fact and it's not, please correct me and I will make a huge point of retracting it. Unlike the mainstream media who will bury it on their 50th page at the very bottom, under some pizza ad and no one's ever going to look at. But the media is a weapon. It is weaponized propaganda and is there to distract you. And right now, one of the main distractions it's using is Donald Trump. So on Hindsight News, from time to time, we're going to do special pieces. And when we get the better computer, we're going to have fancier graphics and it'll look more like a news show. And I got a lot of ideas coming up in the future, big ideas for these shows. But this is an expose on Trump derangement syndrome. And I want you to pretend that we did a camera cut and went to a different angle and I'm looking at a different camera. and I want you to pretend it was all slick and neat. But this is the Trump derangement syndrome expose. So, Trump derangement syndrome, better known in psychological and mental health circles as TDS, is a recent phenomenon that began around the same moment that the media tried to rig an election for Hillary Clinton and accidentally got Donald Trump elected president. Since then, the mainstream media on every channel have sold Trump as a maniacal boogeyman to be feared by every man, woman, and child on planet Earth. Logic doesn't factor into TDS and is caused directly by the influences in that person's life, which are 100% in control of and they could remove themselves from, but they don't. People who suffer from TDS are impenetrable to facts and can only think and function with oversensitive emotional responses that range from triggered to nuclear triggered with little to no range in between. The mere mention of Donald Trump's name will send someone with TDS into a triggered state. Most TDS sufferers call the president 45 instead, or the orange man, or something else, but everyone with TDS says that 45 is not their president. They care not about the fact that he is the president because reality ceases to matter to those with TDS and actually becomes seen as more of a hindrance, really to the safety of their echo chambers that TDS sufferers tend to cluster and hide in. And yes, I said cluster. TDS is an epidemic, and it is growing faster than Jeff Bezos' bank account. It's a very real problem. For example, just the sight of a MAGA hat can cause a brain lapse in a TDS victim. In fact, there is only one answer to the Trump derangement syndrome epidemic, and that is to turn off that lying ass flickering box that sits in your living room. Look, Donald Trump is many things, but an evil mastermind isn't one of them. He is an embarrassment for sure, an idiot most likely, and he is indeed orange, but he is also your president. Facts is facts, whether you like them or not. So say his name, say it over and over again. It'll lose its power over you eventually, and soon you'll find logic and good sense will come flooding back into your mind, restoring your sense of well being. Evil didn't take hold when Trump walked his awkward, chubby self into the White House. He's a symptom of the problem, a reflection of it, but he's not the whole problem. He's a distraction at best. And if you suffer from TDS, the distraction is working. So stop reacting blindly based on emotions. You don't like him. I get it. I don't like him. But let's use our heads here. We're being distracted with the hopes that we'll vote out of fear of a bumbling fool that is being made to look like a supervillain by a media that does nothing but lie to you on a daily basis. Wake up. We've got real things to focus on that matter, and it ain't red hats and orange presidents. Now back to you, Sean. Now pretend that we cut over to me again and did a fancy little cut there and went back over to me where I talked to you about how that's what I'm saying. The media is a weapon. These distractions. And Trump is a distraction. Donald Trump is used against us as a distraction to distract us from other things. He is not a boogeyman. He is not a monster. He's an embarrassment. And we're going to vote him out. But we're going to vote him out by voting for ideas and a movement to move this country forward. That's what we're going to support, and that's what we're going to vote for, not out of fear of Donald Trump. Because the establishment powers that be, this is what they won't tell you, what they don't want you to know. They would rather lose and have Donald Trump do another 4 years. That's why they're worried about impeachment, because they would rather lose to Donald Trump than let us win. But let me see if anybody's here. Let me say hello to the people that are here. Nissa says yes, TDS. I like that little expose on TDS, and it's true. There was a lot of satire in it, but it's factual. Trump derangement syndrome is real. There are people that can't even say Trump's name. And they walk around, not my president. It is your president. It's my president too. And I want to do something about it, but I want to do something about it that makes sense and that will work. Not walk around and cry and get triggered all the time. Jeff says, but wait, there's more, and there is. This next segment is going to be called If the News Was Real. So we are going to cover things that the news would cover if the news was really news, which it is not. Then we established that earlier in the broadcast. The news is no longer news, hasn't been for a long time. There's proof of that everywhere. If you're someone that seeks out your own truth, you already know this because you find your own truth in your own media, and the real media, which is buried now, which is what the establishment media considers fake news. Fake news isn't about fake news at all. The Inquirer and stuff like that, and Hillary being a lizard person, it's not about stopping that. It's about stopping dissent and stopping WikiLeaks and stopping the truth, stopping things like this, stopping anything that speaks against the official narrative or tells a different version than what they want to sell you on their media. So things like this are suppressed and held back in the algorithm, etc. That's why sharing is important, and that's why supporting this kind of stuff is important. There are links in the description for how to support this show. But sharing is probably the best way, because everything that I'm ever going to do, all the shows that I plan to put out, are going to be put out for free. And when I bring in other guys, I'm going to bring in some other people. I shouldn't say guys, because one person that I'm looking at is female. So when I bring in other content creators, all the stuff we're going to put out from me on Things and Stuff, my YouTube channel, is going to be free. But we need your support. And your support happens by supporting us financially, but it also happens by spreading the word, sharing it out, getting people to come and subscribe or follow, and all of that. That's all part of supporting the show. And I appreciate any part of that. And just eyeballs on screens is great. Just click the like button. Do that. Make sure you click that like button before you leave, at the very minimum. But if the news was real, we would be hearing about these massive protests that are happening all over the world. We're going to focus a little bit on the yellow vest protests that are going on in France that have been going on for months, that you're not hearing about on the mainstream media at all, that's not being covered, and really isn't being covered very well in the independent media, not to my satisfaction. But that's not the only place that protests are happening. And what's happening in France is a massive protest. They call them the yellow vest because they wear yellow safety vests. When the reason for that is the yellow safety vest is a common thing overseas. They have them in their cars. It's part of their driving safety and stuff like that. So they all just happen to have them. And it just happened to be their look. And then the media ran with it, and now it's their branding. So they call them the yellow vest. But there's protests in my mind is betraying me, but I want to say Ecuador. There's been protests in China. There's been massive, huge protests in the streets. There's been protests at the Amazon. There was a huge riot over the fires in the Amazon. There's all kinds of things going around all around the world that aren't being shown to you, and a big part of that is people rising up, and it's happening globally. But they don't want you to see that, because they don't ever want the people to realize that that's where their true power lies. That if they would just unify and rise up, they could make change happen. Because in these places where these protests are happening, change is taking place. The Yellow Vest protests, they're making change. And you're going to see change from these other massive protests. Other countries are a little bit better at flooding the streets than we are. But that's the way that change takes place, no matter what you believe in politically. Change takes place when the people do something about it. So no matter where you lie politically, that doesn't matter to me right now. Just be a part of making change in the world. Part of that is also protecting the truth, which is being killed in real time. This is true. What I'm going to talk about coming up right now, the media should be talking about. If they were real, if the news was real, it would be important to them that censorship is now conducted by corporations. Google, YouTube, Facebook, all really consider themselves to be more publishers than content providers, than places to share content, than platforms. They're publishers, places where schmucks like me, who do a free show and put it out on Facebook, are nice enough to give Mark Zuckerberg something that he can put out to people as a publisher if he so chooses to. But the downside of that is if he chooses that he doesn't want you to see it, that's perfectly fine. Well, everybody says, well, that's okay because Mark Zuckerberg owns Facebook, so he can do whatever he wants with Facebook. But Facebook has a certain monopoly over this type of sharing, over this type of content sharing. There's really no other place for me to go to get out to an audience like there is Facebook. Same as YouTube. So YouTube is a unique video sharing platform. There's no competition for it really. They have a monopoly on that particular venue. Facebook has social media platforms pretty much locked up. Twitter has the communicating verbally locked up. They all got their little venues and their little niches. But if they shut you down, that's the end of you. You know, if you don't already have an established base, like they shut Alex Jones down and liberals were cheering it. I don't ever cheer censorship in any form. You know, killing the truth. We covered this on an episode of a show that I did recently, but there is a real program every year. The American Literary Society hosts this real program where they decide what books they're going to ban every year. And this year alone, there is 437, is I believe the exact number, but over 400 books on consideration to be banned on the list. And they will be banned. They banned 383 last year. And for different reasons. Because they cover gay rights, because they cover, they think they say or preach violence, but they did the same things with Catcher in the Rye, banning that book. Or To Kill a Mockingbird, you know. Who's to decide what's getting banned? Who's to decide what truth gets out? Who's to decide what's worthy of being put out to the people? Well, now it's corporations. Censorship is happening and truth is being edited and erased in real time, and what gets out is being controlled. But it's being controlled by corporations, so everybody's turning a blind eye. They don't feel like their rights are being violated because it's not the government doing it. When somebody gets shut down, like for Alex Jones, he was unpopular, so everybody turns a blind eye because they're like, well, screw Alex Jones. I don't like Alex Jones anyway. You don't like his brand of entertainment. I don't like what he does. But that doesn't matter either because popular speech is just as important as unpopular speech. And unfortunately, popular speech doesn't need to be protected. Unpopular speech does. And who decides what's unpopular? You see what I'm saying? You see, when you start splitting hairs, it's kind of like I understand a little bit how people that are fervently for the Second Amendment don't want to back down at all on it because if you give an inch, they take a mile. I get it because I'm that way on the first. But journalism is supposed to be the fourth wall of the government. It's supposed to hold the powers that be in check. Kennedy, in one of his final speeches, went out telling the world how important journalism was, preaching, begging journalists to listen to him and be that fourth wall and hold up society and hold the powers that be responsible and accountable because they have to. If they don't, which they don't anymore, there's no real news or journalism. That's why I said don't care if Shepard Smith got fired or what happens to Shepard Smith or where he goes. He didn't get fired, he quit. But I don't care. It doesn't matter because he's a tool. He's an establishment corporate tool. He's not a real journalist. He's an actor that puts on makeup and gets his face done and gets a $400 haircut and sits in a chair and reads a script. And that's all he is. And that's all any of them are. That's all Rachel Maddow is. I don't care how decorated she is, how many degrees she has. She makes $30,000 an episode to tell you what they tell her to tell you, in the tone and with the opinion they tell her to deliver it. And that's what they do on TV. That flickering little box. Bill Hicks used to say that watching television was like taking spray paint to your third eye. And that's probably the prettiest way I can see to put it, but it's just garbage. It's garbage. And if you want real entertainment and real media, you got to seek it out and find it for yourself. And I'm trying to provide that. So if you're digging it, support our shows. And like I said, support us by sharing anything you can do. Every bit of support helps. But the next thing I want to talk about on If the News Was Real. I mean, my eyes are blurry. Some reason when you're doing something live, I've noticed this at work too. Like, I work in the restaurant industry, and when you put on gloves, for whatever reason, everything itches because you have gloves on. Soon as I start doing a show, my nose itches, my eyes are blurry. Oh, I have all kinds of problems. It's just immediately. But the next thing I wanted to cover on If the News Was Real is the Epstein and the Pedogate stories. Where'd they go? What happened to that? This Epstein arrest that happened. That was big exposure of a real problem that is going on in this country and has been going on in this country for an extremely long time, unfortunately under the radar for literally hundreds of years, really. But let's just use Jeffrey Epstein for an example. For decades, this one man's been running a sex ring out of his apartment in New York and an island, wherever the island is, and then he had other rings. They had him for the New York one though, and they had him tied to very important, powerful, rich people, and they, in my opinion, eliminated him. In media's opinion, he killed himself. But no matter what happened to him, the story just died, just went away. They stopped covering it. And things were starting to come back to light, like the fact that Bill Clinton flew on Jeffrey Epstein's Lolita Express something like 30 times. And Bill Clinton is just one of the biggest names on the list. The list is peppered with very big names you've heard before. I don't have it in front of me right now. But if I was a real journalist on TV, if real journalists existed on TV, they would have told you about it because there's actors and politicians and a lot of names flew on that plane a bunch. Why are they hanging out with this pedophile? He's a known pedophile. I'm just a stand up comic from rural Missouri. Just a normal guy like you or anybody else. I knew he was a pedophile. You don't think Donald Trump knew he was a pedophile? He banned him from Mar-a-Lago. Donald Trump at least broke ties with the man. He banned him from Mar-a-Lago when Jeffrey Epstein did something to cross a line with Donald Trump. And Donald Trump broke ties with him a long time ago, and he don't even allow him at his resort. But before that, he hung out with him, was taking pictures with him, even gave positive quotes about him to People magazine. The man's a pedophile. And that was part of his quote. He's like, he's a really great guy or whatever, and he likes girls young. They all knew. I knew. Somebody in the middle of cornfields in Missouri knew. How informed could I possibly be? The elite and the powerful, and of course the FBI and the CIA and all of them knew. They all knew. But he's untouchable because the media is bought off and controlled. So, when they eliminated Jeffrey Epstein, or however you want to look at it, when he took his own life, the story was allowed to just end with Jeffrey Epstein, even though the story is not just about Jeffrey Epstein. Just like a prostitution ring isn't just about sorry, I gotta get technical now, but the bottom biatch. It's not just about her, the bookkeeper, the runner that runs all the other girls. You got to get the pimp too. They're not even worried about that woman. You don't see her in the media even. Well, she was part of that same sex ring. You've got her at least, right? Where'd the story go? Well, if the news was real, it would be all over the media. These are young girls, 14, 15, 16 years old, maybe some younger. And it just gets to go away. You're going to tell me Bill Clinton hung out with this dude out of sheer ignorance and traveled with him 30 times, never went or got involved with any of the shenanigans that Jeffrey Epstein was having going on. You believe that? Then you probably also believe that the elite have $65,000 hot dog parties. They do. Did you know that? Read the WikiLeaks. In the whole time WikiLeaks has been an organization, they've never had to retract a story for being false. Never, not once. And the WikiLeaks prove in the emails that the elite love hot dogs and pizza. Love, 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 love them. And that's very possible that they really just love hot dogs and pizza. That they like, there's this, I know what these words mean, but I'll humor you for a second. They like pizza with hair. They have pizza related maps on handkerchiefs. That's normal. The little pizza place by my house, they give out embroidered handkerchiefs with maps to their location. It's normal. Don't chores? Don't they have embroidered napkins that they give out to customers for how to find their restaurant? Jeff says, however you say that name, Maxwell was Epstein's accomplice. And what happened to her? Where'd that go? You know, what I was getting at with the pizza references is this stuff's real. There is elite pedophile rings. And to ignore that just because the media did a really good job of making it seem fantastical and crazy is really bad. It's bad for the victims, it's bad for everybody. Nobody wins in that scenario or in that situation. Nobody at all. Everybody loses. And the biggest loser in that situation is the truth in every way. YouTube, I don't know if it ever came back around. If anybody's here on YouTube, please comment and let me know you're here because I got 0 viewers, 0 likes, and it says please stand by. But it says I've been live for 32 minutes. So if you're on YouTube, let me know. I'm good everywhere else. I'm going to continue forward. But I do need to back up a little bit. But the other thing the media would be covering, besides the fact that there are child sex rings, Pizzagate was real, guys. That was real. I think, this is what I think. I'm going to tell you, I'm going to go into Pizzagate for just a second. This is old news, but this show is not just about what's happening right now. It's hindsight news. It's about everything important, and this is kind of important right now, just for a second, so we're going to briefly get into it. There are underage sex rings that exist. It's true. How come you'll believe it when um, that TV show, what's that TV show with Ice-T, where Ice-T's a cop? How come you'll believe it when they talk about it on there, but you won't believe it when somebody like me says, "Hey, there's child sex rings, by the way." And you're like, "Oh, you're crazy. You believe in Pizzagate." It's similar to the weaponization of the term conspiracy theory. You make it fantastical, you make it crazy. Now, if you look at this Comet Pizza, Comet Ping Pong, or whatever their name was, I don't remember and I don't care. I think it was Comet Ping Pong. But their Instagram, their artwork on their walls, all of their behavior, very, very strange, would draw a lot of attention in any situation. If you don't know that, you didn't look into it. And if you didn't look into it, you don't have the right to judge anyway. But every bit of it was very strange and very creepy, quite frankly. Some of these pictures with little kids duct taped to tables was very creepy. And then you couple that with all of these special meetings at Comet Pizza in the WikiLeaks, and it all starts to point to Comet Pizza, and then this weird Instagram and all of that. Then they go and there's a crazy person that raids the place who I think was a staged stooge. I think that whole incident was staged, but whatever. And then they get all this sympathy for James Alefantis and make everyone seem crazy because they're like, come on, the dude just loves pizza and ping pong and weird art. Who doesn't want to duct tape a kid to a table, right? That's how the media would tell you, and they'd had him on and had you feel sorry for him. I think Comet Ping Pong was a distraction, a diversion. I think it was there as a failsafe for that reason. I think that filthy guy is involved in some way, and I think he's a pervert for sure. But Comet Ping Pong is too obvious. It always felt too obvious, and then the media was able to use it to make the whole thing seem ridiculous. Well, it's not ridiculous, and if the media was real, they would be exposing this because there was a Catholic sex ring busted in Philadelphia or Pennsylvania. 80 something churches, over 100 priests and church officials involved, thousands of victims over so many years. Ridiculous. They got away with it forever through the Catholic Church. This stuff happens. And it's the elite, the Catholics, more than that, drug cartels. There's all kinds of levels of evil. It's real. But they get you to think it's fantastical because they're not going to cover it because, like I said, the elite are involved. Very powerful people are also involved. No one's talking on any platform. Did I get kicked? I'm not getting any comments anywhere. You guys can talk. I know I'm rambling on, but I'm eventually going to fall onto the comments, and if there aren't any, I'm going to have a hard time. We're going to have a really slow second half of the show because I am about out of notes. But if the news was real, things like the Equifax data hack, which is also old news but very relevant to everyone today, would have been covered. It was hardly even covered that there was a settlement. Tulsi tweeted out, and a lot of people pushed it out that there was, but people didn't know about it. A huge data leak. Equifax, a huge data collection company that collects all your credit information, all your important information. They had a huge data leak. Never reported, really. Completely buried story. Hardly reported at all. And even when it was, they never let you know how bad it is. Look into it. So much damage can still be done with the information that was leaked. Really, everybody needs a new Social Security card. It's terrible. A little settlement, and it's like very little, too. I don't remember how much, but I went to get it. I went to get my piece of the Equifax settlement. Don't even bother. Don't put your hand out. There ain't nothing there. You're going to come back empty. But the Equifax data hack's a big deal. Still a big deal. And like I said, look into it because part of it is we really need new identities. There's too much been released and leaked. It's too much is out there. And that's underreported and not reported at all. The other things that's not reported, if the news was real, they would talk about this because the people care about this, is the endless friggin' war that goes on every day on our tax dollars while we play Team America World Police. The news would talk about that. The 2,000 troops to Syria or Saudi Arabia. Why aren't they up in arms? Why are we sending troops to Saudi Arabia? Come on. You want to see how bad Iran wants war with the United States? Look at how close they put their country to our military bases. Look at it on a map. It's ridiculous how close they put their country to our military bases. They're picking a fight with us, man. I'm telling you. They want trouble. We surround their country. They put their country right in the middle of a big nest of our military bases because they want problems with us. We've wanted war with Iran for decades. Forever. Look up Wesley Clark all the way back at 9/11. Talk about hindsight. All the way back after 9/11. Talking about a plan for 7 wars over 5 years. It took them a little longer than 5 years, but Iran's on that list. And we've went to war with all the rest of them. And we're in like 8 right now. Not sanctioned, just 8 wars. It's out bombing people. We're making all these bombs. Boeing and all these companies, the military industrial complex is making all this bombs and all these fancy explosives. We got to drop them on something, right? The military industrial complex and the powers that be, the elite, have a hold over our world and our existence that they will never let go of, and it will never self correct. And the media will never tell you about how bad it is. That's why it's important to find independent truth and then support it. Because otherwise, it's going to be killed off completely. Because if the news was real, you'd be hearing about the California wildfires instead of Shepard Smith. The California wildfires raging right now. You'd be hearing about that. It's real news. What about Flint's water? Talk about hindsight. They haven't had clean water since 2015. This is what the news would cover if the news was real. There's flammable water. Watch that movie. What's that movie? It's a documentary. Gas Hole, I think. Flammable water in this country. Is the news reporting it? If the news was real, that's what they would report. Well, hindsight news is real. So this is a new news show. And we're going to cover news, but we're going to cover it in a way that relates to reality. Because what's out there, what's being put out information wise, doesn't always completely line up with reality. They're all too often separate things. But I'm going to try something on YouTube. I'm going to try reloading the page because I refuse to believe there's no one here 40 minutes in. So if this crashes YouTube, I apologize to the YouTube audience because I am a spoiled child and I can't leave well enough alone. And I had to do that because I've got to have comments for the next 20 minutes of show. We always do an hour at least. We can do more. Babos is at work and I'm all alone. I've been in the studio all day. I've been sitting in this chair researching for tonight's show so long my butt hurts. My butt is aching me. Dolores says that she thinks Epstein is alive. I'm going to tell you, we're going to explore a little bit now. I'm done with my notes. That was the show. That was Hindsight News. Did you like it? Do you want to see this come back? I'm flirting with some shows that I used to do with bringing them back, and I missed this one, and I thought I'll try it. I want to see if it works, see if there's any interest in it, and all of that. Okay, it looks like YouTube's okay. It looks like the refresh helped with YouTube, and maybe we'll get some people in now. Maybe the feed wasn't going out right. I don't know. No, it looks like some people were here during it. Okay. Dolores is here on YouTube as well. Dolores, you're a champion. Look at you go. But Periscope as well, guys. Periscope, they're not very talkative on Twitter. Periscope is Twitter's streaming service, and they get good views over there, but they don't talk much on Periscope. You guys can talk too. This is a participation show. But Dolores says she thinks Epstein's alive, and so do I. I do too. I don't think he's dead. I don't think he died at all. And let me share. You can't share? Why can't you share? I'll have to figure out what's wrong with that. There's no reason why I don't want anybody to not be able to share. No, go ahead. If something's wrong with my settings, I'll fix that. That's a big problem if you can't share. That explains a lot, actually. But the DNC and media are in collusion, Dolores says. They absolutely are. And, before you start saying, oh, that's crazy, Jeffrey Epstein can't be alive. He hung himself in his cell. Did he? Did he? He's over 6 feet tall. He hung himself from a 4-foot bunk bed. They said they found him on his knees. Multiple fractures in his neck. Camera on his cell just happened to malfunction right at that particular time. I don't believe it. I don't believe it at all. You can't get me to believe that story. Jeffrey Epstein wasn't killed that way if he's dead. If he's dead, he was murdered, but I don't believe he's dead. I believe he's probably alive, and they probably had some body double, some schmuck they killed that looks like Jeffrey Epstein and put him in his place. This man, Jeffrey Epstein, the mainstream media never covered it, but the independent media did. He has ties, most likely, to Mossad. He's most likely a foreign special agent. And he had blackmail and information on some very important and very powerful, powerful people. Now, you're like, well, wouldn't they just kill him? They just kill him then. Not necessarily. Not necessarily. And you don't know how much power he has, how much of a ringleader he is. There's all kinds of different levels to this. And I believe it's not outside of the realms of possibility that Epstein is still alive. But I know for sure the story ain't dead. And if there was real journalists, we wouldn't have to speculate like this. We wouldn't have to imagine and think that that is even a reality or a possibility. It shouldn't be. I would like to live in a world where that's not a possibility, where that's not a reality, but we don't live in that world. We live in the age of deceit, and everything is a lie. Just like in our top story, everything is a lie all around you. And the media is a big selling point of that lie. I'm sorry. I made it so long. I'm going to quit altogether. I smoke 2 packs of these a day. We don't have commercials on this show, so every time I light a cigarette, every time I fail, because that's what happened when I lit this, I failed. So every time that happens, I'm going to do a cigarette ad, but it's an anti-cigarette ad. This is the dumbest thing I ever started doing in my life. Literally, the dumbest. And that is a history. That is 43 years of a lot of dumb shit. I've done a lot of stupid things. This is the dumbest thing I do. Hands down. And these should be illegal. The fact that there is a wall of these when I walk into my local gas station that I can't buy gas without staring at my addiction, that is a crime too. It's so accepted. There's a wall of these and a wall of hard liquor, but cannabis is illegal. Cannabis is a miracle. Cannabis is a gift from God put here for us to use and for the benefit of humanity. But even if you don't believe in God, it's a gift from science, whoever science prays to. Carl Sagan, gift from Carl Sagan for the benefit of humanity. It's for everybody. It's for me. It's for you. Move us forward. There should be a wall of that. That's positivity. That's goodness. It's love. But no, you got hard liquor and cigarettes. That's what they want to sell you. Hard liquor and cigarettes. Addiction. They make you slow and stupid. Like, I probably couldn't run around this house. And this ain't even that big a house. And I'd be winded. I'd be wore out. I might have to go to the emergency room, which would cost me $5,000 because we don't have Medicare for all, which we need. And if there was a real media, if the news was real, back to the show for a second, people would be talking about that. But no, the news is fake. So they're telling everybody, Medicare for all is a pipe dream. You can't have it. We can't afford it. Bullshit. Steve said, Epstein's alive, no body, no funeral. Not Saddam Hussein, I almost said Saddam Hussein. Osama bin Laden, Tim Osman, same thing. No body, no funeral. Buried at sea. Bullshit. Bullshit. It's all lies. Everything is a lie. Our top story may be our top story every week. Could be. Could be our top story every week. Everything's a lie. Back to you. It's hard to put together shows, but not really. When the whole world is a complete lie, you can at least be consistent centered around that. That okay guys, look, we can all at least agree that this is all garbage. Everything coming out of that little flickering box in your living room is garbage, especially the news. Especially the news. Do not get your news from mainstream media. Please. I'm not asking you to get it from me. I'm an amateur that's trying to go pro. I'm decent at this, but I got a lot to learn. I got a lot to do to get better, and I will. But I'm not begging you to get it from me. Support me if you will, but support somebody. Support some independent journalism. Seek out truth and then defend it. Because if you don't, it's going to go away and then it won't exist anymore. And then we'll all be sitting around staring at each other while the big brother blasts out the media, the approved established narrative, and we all just stand there and stare at each other like, how the hell we end up here? Well, we ended up here by turning a blind eye because it was corporations doing it. And don't make it okay. And don't make it okay. It's still a huge problem. But go ahead and let me know what you guys want to talk about. Any stories that we didn't get to. Because we didn't get to a lot. There's a ton of real news out there. So much it overwhelmed me. Like I said, my butt hurts. I've been sitting in this chair preparing for this show all night. There's protests going on all over the world, not being covered. I had to dig to find it. You know what is a great source for real news, and it's probably one of the ones that will be targeted next and taken down next, is RT. And I don't care that it's government funded or by Russia. Doesn't matter to me. Information matters to me. Journalism matters to me. The pursuit of the truth. If they have a certain agenda, maybe they do. But one of their agendas is exposing the truth, and they have good shows like Redacted Tonight and Jesse Ventura. There's a lot of good programming and good journalism. You know, there's not a lot of it. There's not a lot of it. And some of it is dangerously conservative, like Drudge Report. I like them. But sometimes, man, a lot of his stuff is dangerously conservative. He's very right leaning. And then TYT, I used to like them. I used to think they were good. And then I saw the true colors of St. Younger. I shouldn't use this opinion of him to begrudge any of the rest of the people on there. I like Hassan Piker. I like the little British dude that does videos for them. And I even like Sync's co host. But I don't have any respect for Sync anymore. And I don't know if I'm saying his name right, but I don't care because I don't really even respect him. I think he's an establishment shill and a sellout. And, sellout don't always mean sold out for money. He may not have sold out to the man, but he sold out his values. That's a sellout too, you know. That's selling out too. Helen says we can't afford Medicare for all. It's not going to happen though, as long as the military industrial complex is the center of the government. They use insurance and education to entice people in. She's not wrong. And the military industrial complex is something that needs to be taken down. And again, we won't get political here. This is the news, right? The news is supposed to be just informational. Well, the truth of the situation is no matter how you lean, you're going to have to get active. Do what you can, as much as you can, to bring awareness to the problem. No matter how you want to get active, get active. If you're fighting in some way, you're on my side. You're fighting to spread the truth and spread awareness and make people aware of the reality of things. You're an ally of mine. You're on the same team as me. We're moving in the same direction. I happen to have my own idea of what we need to do, but if your idea is different than mine, that don't make it wrong. That don't make it wrong at all. Dolores says, I like the show. Good, thank you. I'm glad you did. I like doing it. It was fun. I remembered liking it, and I liked it. And it was a lot of work. But, it was the first one, which the first one's always the hardest. Like now I have a framework and a skeleton moving forward, and I can improve on it. It'll get easier as I go. Like the daily burn, I do that one every day. I can throw that together really quick. It's surprising how easy that is for me to do now. And all of them are getting easier for me, as we go and I get more practice. But, and this will too. But if you like it, and it's something that we're probably going to keep and we'll bring it back around. I don't know how regular yet, hopefully weekly, but I don't know if I can commit to that right now. But it definitely will be something that comes back. And it also allows me to do Hindsight News special reports which is going to be cool. So that gives me the freedom to cover anything. So if something happens, I can just come on. Hindsight News Special Report, blah, blah, blah. See, so it's going to be really cool having a news show as part of my shows and part of my channel moving forward. So Hindsight News is going to be a permanent fixture. And if you're here on YouTube, subscribe to the channel and follow us and stay with our content. And that way you can keep up with these shows. I've got 5 now that I'm doing. And I'm like I said, I'm courting a few other people, some content creators to come in and do some shows too. Hopefully I can get them to. And we'll put together anything you want to see. I want to know. I say we now. I always talk like I got a mouse in my pocket. Eventually there will be a we, but right now I want to know what you want to see and what shows you like and what I'm doing that you like and what I'm doing that you don't like. I do this as I go. I've learned everything as I've gone and I've gotten a lot better, but I could get better even still. I always know that. I keep that in mind. And you should always keep that in mind. There's always room for growth and you can always get better. So I've been getting roasted on Reddit. I started using Reddit to promote my stuff. And I shared some stuff over to Reddit and they are roasting the hell out of me. Today's Daily Burn is down to 50% like ratio on YouTube now because they are tearing it to shreds. Reddit is ripping me apart. Reddit's hard. I don't fully understand Reddit, which is probably a lot of it, but the Reddit community, they're like piranhas. You know, the minute you drop a link, they swarm it. It's good for hits, but they are vicious and they are very, very hard to impress. I dropped my best stuff. You know, I dropped a Daily Burn, which I'm proud of. Not everybody likes that show, but I'm proud of it. It's a good show. You know, I think you can acknowledge it's a good show, even if you don't agree with my politics. I think that show stands on its own. So I shared that. I shared my new 9/11 video, which I'm very proud of my new 9/11 video. 3 Keys to 9/11 Truth, by the way, look it up. But I shared that and I shared the MK Ultra video I just did. Also very good. I'm proud of it too. Tore me to shreds in every instance. And then a lot of the posts they kicked them out. Like the MK Ultra video I was never able to successfully share. They've got a lot of rules that I apparently need to learn. My wife is always telling me, Babas is always telling me, learn the rules. If you would learn the rules, this would be easier for you. You wouldn't be so frustrated all the time. Well, I've never read the instruction manual and I don't know how to change that as moving forward. I don't know how to become the person that reads the instructions. I always figure it out as I go. That's how I learned how to do it. If I end up going to broadcasting school, which may be something I do moving forward, because I want to get paid to do this. And if I can't get an audience growing, which I think I can, I know I can. So we're going to try to build an audience. Support us if you can. And we will be in us. I will have writers. I will have a staff. I will have art people. And like a TYT, if TYT never sold out, that's what Me on Things and Stuff is going to be. And, you know, Modus for short, Modus News, Modus. I like the sound of it. Me on Things and Stuff. You may not like that name, but I do. I dig it. And the reason I named my YouTube channel that was because I wanted to cover a little bit of everything. I don't want to be restricted. And that's how I ended up with 5 different shows because I'm into so many things. There's so much to me, like there probably is to you. And I don't want to be restricted in any way. And that's the reason why I'm doing all crowdfunded, is I also don't want to be restricted by advertisers or sponsors. I don't want to have a boss. So I'm trying to do my own thing and make these shows. If you're digging them, support it. Help me out. I would really appreciate that. There's lots of ways to help me. Sharing, liking, commenting, all of that, that helps tremendously. So thank you if you're doing that. And everybody that's, look, a lot of names just hit my screen. I'm going to say hi to everybody because 30 names just hit my screen. And I know that this isn't all people that just showed up. But Tony, hello. Nick, Jeff Pearson, good to see you, Jeff. Robert, Owen, John, looks like John just came in. Good to see you guys. Good to see we're getting a turnout. This is the first episode of Hindsight News. If you're just arriving, check out the show. We did a whole news show. And I pre-wrote it all out and pre-planned it. Hopefully you dug it. It's kind of the concept. John Oliver stole it from me. It's basically taking last week's news and what the news is talking about, and really today, this first episode, we went bonkers. We went everywhere. Hindsight meant everything today. So we covered just the situation of everything and really took the whole idea to its fullest extremes. But in the future, moving forward, we'll pretty much cover the news and what's going on in the world from the truth perspective. That's what this show's going to be. So check it out and check out the first episode and see what you think, because I want your feedback and I want your opinion and I want to hear from you. And there's a couple people here on YouTube. Comment. Let me know any stories you want us to cover before we wrap up, because we're going to wrap up here pretty soon, but we're going to get into anything that you want before that. I always have a little bit of interaction on every show that we do with the audience. And eventually, when we get the better computer, we're going to take phone calls. I'm going to get the pay for the service where you can take phone calls, and that'll be really cool. So I'm excited about that moving forward. There's a lot of things happening moving forward with this. I'm taking this real serious. This is my job now. I have a real job, but now I have 3 jobs. I'm a stand-up comic. I work in the restaurant industry with a full-time job, and I'm a professional content creator now. I've gotten a donation. I've gotten my first donation, and I'm going to frame it. And, it's $5. Thank you, Ginger, by the way. I'm going to frame it, and it's going to go right on my wall, right in my studio, which also happens to be my bedroom, which also is where I spend all my time now. All of my free time is doing this, but I love it. I fell in love with it, and I decided it was my gift. I listen to motivational stuff to do the daily burn. Every day I pump myself up to do that show. That's why I love it so much, is because it's made me a better person. It's built my self-confidence, and it makes me a better person doing that show, because I have to be in a certain frame of mind to do it. But I was listening to a motivational video, and it was Steve Harvey talking about living in your gift. And I was thinking, he said, your gift is whatever you do with the least amount of effort, the thing that you think about first thing in the morning, the thing that you always would be doing if you had the time to do what you want in your free time, what you do for fun, and you're good at with the least amount of effort. And for me, that was talking in any of its forms, whether it be stand-up comedy or conversational, or talking about history or talking about conspiracies or anything like that. I was like, I love that. I love to tell stories, and I love to talk, and I love to entertain, you know. So this is what I want to do. I want to make shows for you guys. I fell in love with doing it, so I want to make mini documentaries and shows and run an entertainment little site out of YouTube. So we're running a GoFundMe right now to support all of that. If you can contribute to that, please do. That's going to help us get things like Be Live. Be Live is a streaming software, a hosting software that helps me be able to interview guests and do split screen, and it's really neat. But it's $300 for a year. So that's going to allow me to buy something like that. And then there's better versions of the streaming software that I'm using that will allow me to go to more places, etc. But all of this stuff costs money, and it's in the future. But you can help with that by supporting the GoFundMe or by just sharing it, getting it out there. The more people that see it, the more chances somebody will support it. So sharing it out, it also helps. Spreading the word, all that's great. But thank you guys so much for watching the show. We've been going for about an hour. I'm going to look at what you're talking about. Facebook looks like there's got some comments. I'm going to give YouTube another chance, guys. Speak up. Let me know what you want to talk about over on YouTube. We can get into it. You guys are a quiet group tonight. Usually YouTube's jumping. But Helen says, if I ever did my own show, I'd call it Issues and Opinions, because I've definitely got both. Herbert's here. Hey, Herbert, how you doing, man? Holla, bitches. Adam's here. Nice to see you, Adam. Dion's here. Good to see you guys. Like I said, I'm glad there was a good turnout. There wasn't a lot of notice for this. I did host an event for it and scheduled the post. So I did all I could to get information out there for it, and I shared it a little bit. I'm back out of sharing jail. I was in Facebook sharing jail because I shared too much. I used to share, whenever I did a feed, I would share it 30, 40 times. I get carried away with everything in life. I do too much. Like you've probably noticed, I have 5 shows and a full-time job. I do too much. I always do. I try too hard. But now that I'm doing this professionally, now that I want this to be my job, my background's in comedy, and the only way I know to do it and to get better and to get your name out is to get on stage as much as you can, to do as many shows as you can. So as long as the content's good, I don't think it's bad that I'm doing a lot of shows. So as long as I'm doing something you like, I'm okay with it. My wife thinks I'm thirsty. She thinks I need to put the camera down and step away from the microphone. But I'm having a good time and I'm trying to build something here. I'm doing something here. So I'm killing 2 birds with 1 stone. I'm occupying myself because idle hands are the devil's plaything, right? This keeps me busy. I love it. And I'm trying to build something. So be a part of that if you believe in it. If not, just hang out. I love an audience. If there's no audience and there's no people here, I can't do a show. I don't want to talk to myself. I talk to myself all day. It gets boring. So I need an audience. I need someone around while I'm talking. But anything you guys want to talk about, anything you want to plug, some of you guys that are regulars, I'll give you a plug. If you got a business you want me to talk about, or a website or a page of your own, share it out in the links. Maybe you're a content creator. Share your show. I want to see your show. I want us to support each other. Independent creators, please share your link. If you're watching this and you do a show, share it out with us. A lot of these people, I recognize their names and they watch that kind of thing. So this could be a good place to share your link. Share it here. I'll support you. We gotta support independent shows and independent media and the truth. Most importantly, the truth. Not just support, but protect. The truth needs protection. We have to protect it. We have to do all that we can. Because if we don't, it'll die. Nothing will keep it alive but us protecting it. So don't be okay with this corporate censorship. Don't turn a blind eye to it and just accept it as the way things are. It's not okay. And don't be okay with the truth being suppressed and think it's all right because, well, I'm awake, I'm aware, I know the truth. The average person doesn't, and we need them. We need to understand we need them. No matter how you feel, we need the people united. So wake the others. Do all you can to spread the truth. Get information and the truth out there in front of as many people as you can. That's how we win. That's what we do. We spread the truth. We fight the lies. And that's what this is an effort to do. So thank you for watching. This has been Hindsight News, the very first episode. We had a good turnout. It went well. We'll give it a regular time and day, everything like that moving forward. But thanks for watching, and we'll see you on the next episode. I don't know when that'll be, but like I said, this opens up a whole new door. We can do special reports. We can do special bulletins. All kinds of things. Exposés. Special reports. The sky's the limit. But I'll see you guys next time. Thanks for watching. This has been Hindsight News. I'm Sean. See you later.